Hi everybody, my name is Lauren and welcome to the Omnivorous Bookworm. So today we're going to be continuing in the Barchester series, and we're on the number 2 book, which is Barchester Towers. And this book continues on with all the characters that we met in The Warden, which is the number 1 book, and expands a lot. And this book is much longer, it's much more involved, it has everything that The Warden has, like times 10. It's my favorite book in the series so far. So far I've only read the first 4, but it's my favorite. I've heard a lot of other people really enjoy Barchester Towers as well, so hopefully if you read it you'll like it. So this was published in 1857. It takes place in the city of Barchester, which is in Barchester, which all the books take place in Barchester, but this book actually takes place in Barchester, which is where the cathedral is. And in this book we really get into the differences between the high church people and their politics and the low church people and their politics, and more about the politics than the theology, although obviously that plays a part as well. So just like a sort of a short, very oversimplified sort of explanation of high church versus low church, if you're not familiar with that. So people who would be, so this is the Church of England, so you have to remember, like, theologically came from Catholicism, but is a Protestant denomination because it is not under the Pope, right? So high church people, they they're not, obviously they're still in the Church of England. All these people are still in the Church of England. In the US this would be called Episcopal. It could also be called Anglican. Like, there's different names for it. But the high church people want a more, for lack of a better, more Catholicized, more Catholicism like, right? So they're not wanting to be Catholic, but they want those like accoutrement in their worship services. They're going to want the incense. They're going to, have saints. They're going to, um, you know, celebrate a lot of the holy days similar to Catholicism. And so, and their church services are going to be more elaborate. They talk about like intoning the Bible when it's read, so like reading in that sort of like chanting way. That will be considered high church. So then the low church people are people who don't want anything that is similar to like the Roman Catholic Church. They want their services much more simplified. They don't want like the crucifixes. But they're probably going to be stricter with like some of the characters are really into like keeping the Sabbath, and then Sundays you can't do anything. They're going to be more likely to, not be drinking alcohol, more likely to not agree with playing cards. Obviously, there's going to be people who have different opinions on the spectrum, but those are sort of the people that we're talking about. So an easy way to think about it is high church people like a very more complicated rules during their church services, and low church people want a simpler service, but probably more rules in their everyday life. So that's like an overly simplified version of it. At this time, also, like, low church people this is also going to be kind of confusing if you're not familiar with it, but they would be called evangelical, but not to confuse that with like evangelicals in the US. And with politics, that's like a completely different group. That we're talking about Church of England in the 1800s, Victorian England. So they are different. It's very different, but you might hear it referred to that way. Okay, so in Barchester Towers we get the same group. So we have Septimus Harding, although he's a minor character. We have Archdeacon Grantley, who is Septimus Harding's son-in-law, his daughter's husband. And then we have his daughter, Susan Grantley. And then we have a new character who is Francis Arabin. And he is very high church. He's very, yeah, it's just very high church, like I explained before. So he's our new character. We still have Eleanor as well. This is going to be this is a spoiler for the warden. If you, like, there's no other way to talk about this. But we have, Eleanor is a widow now, and she has a young, baby. So she's also appears, and she's with her sister. And so these are all the high church people. And then we have the low church people. So we have a new bishop. So the bishop has died. Another spoiler for the word. It's not really a spoiler. He wasn't that important. Um, and our new bishop is Bishop Prouty, and which is a wonderful name. And I love Anthony Trollope's names. Like in, Friendly Parsonage, and I think Dr. Thorne too. He has like the lawyers, Mr. Slow and Mr. Bidewhile. So like his names are very, very interesting. So we have, the Prouty. So Bishop Prouty is technically the bishop, but he's just very henpecked, and he doesn't really care. He doesn't really have any strong convictions. His only convictions are whatever his wife, thinks. And it's the way that Anthony Trollope does the Proudies is unusual, and it is interesting. It's not like the typical, like, oh, the husband is just henpecked. Like, he does make Mrs. Prouty like her own. I mean, she's not likable, but she's her own strong character that is interesting. She's an interesting character. So we have the Proudies, and then they have a chaplain who is I mean, he is just so slimy, and I mean, nobody can write a better horrible religious zealot that you love to hate better than Anthony Trollope. And so he is Obadiah Slope. Yeah, Obadiah Slope. What a horrible name. Like, it's just his name. You just get this, like, slimy. Yeah, and every time he's described, he's just kind of slimy. And he's younger than I thought. Like, when he describes him, he describes him as just being kind of. And so they are very low church, very much into the rules. Mrs. Prouty is really into, like, the Sabbath and keeping the Sabbath. She doesn't want anybody to do anything on Sundays. Like, it's a big deal for her. So those are the high church and the low church people. And then we also get a new group and they are hilarious, which are the Stanhopes. So the Stanhopes are a family of grown children, and then their dad. Their dad works with the Church of England. And they have been living in Italy for 12 years. And it's described as they've been living in Italy for 12 years while their father got over a sore throat. So it's like, obviously, it shows you part of the corruption of what's happening in this church. So he's getting paid for a position that he has not even been in the country for 12 years because he had a sore throat and went to Italy. And so when the new bishop comes in, he's like, no, you have to come back to Barchester. And so he brings his it's mainly the adult children that we're following. So we have the, Charlotte, who is single, and she's sort of, the brains behind everything. We have Bertie Stanhope, who is the son. He's very irresponsible, just running off, spending money, not very mature. He has no way to, like, he needs to make his own way in the world. He's not doing it. He's not doing anything. He's just spending his dad's money. And then we have, Madeline, who was married to an Italian at one point. So she goes by Signora Madeline Vessi Neroni. And so a lot of people in Barchester think, that she is Italian because of her name, and she likes that sort of, like, being dramatic. But she's not. She's just as British as everybody else. So it's very interesting. And she, cannot walk. She was in some type of accident. And she's described as being very beautiful. And so since she can't walk, she has to, like she decides to be carried, and then she's like lays herself on these couches in very dramatic ways, to the point where she'll even, like, go into somebody's house and, like, put their couch, like, where the best lighting can come on her, even if it's, not in a it's not practical. And she's extremely beautiful, and she has men fawning all over her, and she knows how to make them fawn on her. So she's a very interesting character. All the Stanhopes are very interesting. And then we also have the Quiverful family, another great name, Quiverful. They have 14 kids. And so he has become the warden at Hiram's hospital. So we have them as well. So we have all these different groups that are sort of interacting and interplaying. We get to see a lot of the politics. We see the politics among the different factions of the church, where money is concerned. We also get to see how the corruption within the church as well. And since the church is part of the government, then those two things will be conflated. We get a lot of a lot of great comedy, a lot of great insights from Anthony Trollope, and like I said, we get a wonderful, horrible religious zealot who we love to hate, which is Obadiah Slope. And yeah, it's overall it's a really interesting, really it really goes into depth, and we get to see a different side of Archdeacon Grantley and all of that. So that is Barchester Towers. Let me know if you've read it, if you would like to read it, what your thoughts on it are. I will be interested to hear. If there's any other Anthony Trollope books you think I should read, because I haven't read. Obviously, he's written a lot, and I haven't read all of them. So let me know down below. Please like and subscribe. I'm a brand new channel, so every subscriber really helps a lot. I get very excited. All right, so thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.